I used to second guess everything, big decisions, small decisions. It didn't matter. And then I would find myself questioning if I even made the right choice. What if I made a mistake? What if I made the wrong choice? What if this decision that I've made is going to ruin everything? So I'd go back, analyze it, rethink it over and over and over, and try to get 100% certainty. But here's the problem. That certainty never came, and I was stuck in this constant loop of doubt and hesitation. And the worst part of this is that I thought I was being smart and responsible, but the reality is that I was wasting energy and time and actually making myself miserable. Then I learned something that completely changed the way I make decisions, and today I'm going to share that with you. Welcome back to Be Unafraid podcast. Today we're going to talk about 3 traps that are keeping you stuck in that loop of indecision and how to get out of it. So let's get into it. You made the decision, but now you're not sure if it was the right one. You're rethinking it, replaying it, hoping for some magical clarity, but it is not coming. I have done this so many times. Make a move, make a decision, and then immediately start to wonder whether or not it was the right decision and start to look for clarity. Start to look for the validation that your decision that you just made right now is correct. But that is actually not the right way to think about decisions. You really think you're being responsible by analyzing it and trying to overthink it again and see if you can potentially walk it back or even make a better decision. But the reality of that, from what I've learned, is that you are just afraid of being wrong. You're afraid of making the wrong decision. You're afraid of what the outcome is going to be because it's uncertain. You don't know what that decision is going to pan out to be. And most of the time, there's really no way that you're going to know upfront about a decision or a choice that you've made. You're just going to have to wait and see the results. And there is a level of fear in that will make you want to go back and try to gain more clarity on that decision. And that's a very dangerous path to go on. You don't need 100% clarity. What you need is movement. Raw action solves everything. What I have learned about decision making is that you're never going to have 100% clarity before you make the decision. And even when you make a decision, you still don't feel like you have 100% clarity. But the only thing that will actually give you clarity and prove you right and give you that peace of mind is actually taking action and seeing the result. The result is going to validate whether or not you made the right or the wrong decision, not before you make the decision. So you actually have to take action. True clarity comes after the decision, not before. It never comes before. It's always after the decision. And it's a very hard thing to wrap your mind around and a very hard thing to understand because there's just this feeling and this want for wanting to know whether or not the thing that you have crossed the line over, the thing that you have decided to do is actually the right thing to do. And it's a matter of shifting your perspective, of shifting your mind and starting to think of things differently. And when you think of things differently and realize that the clarity will come from the action and the results, you'll find yourself slowly starting to feel better about the decisions that you make. And as you see results, as you get clarity, as you start to get confirmation on some of those things, whether it's positive or negative or neutral, you start to gain more confidence in the decision that you make because you know that sooner or later you're going to find out whether or not it's going to work out. And that will give you clarity. If you are getting a ton of value that is helping you change your mindset and helping you improve your life, subscribe to this channel so that you get more videos like this. Let's get back into it. There is what I call the 80% rule. And this is a rule that I am now living by and anchoring my life to. I made a video right here diving deep into the 80% rule. So check that out if you want to learn more about it. The 80% rule means that if a choice is 80% of the way there, If a decision is 80% of the way there, take it. Cross the line, take it across the finish line. Go with it. That extra 20%, trying to get to 100%, that is where people spend weeks, months, years on, is trying to get that 20%, to get to that 100% clarity on decision. I have spent a lot of time on that 20%. There's so many projects that I was 80% of the way there. Starting this YouTube channel, I had 80% of what I needed to start and film videos probably 5 years ago, 6 years ago. But I spent years on 20% trying to be perfect, trying to have the perfect presentation and the perfect camera and the perfect lighting. And what I didn't realize was that 20% is only going to come in execution. It's only going to come when I start making videos, and when I make one after another and practicing and getting better. That's when you start to slowly get that 20%. So I have shifted my mindset now to anytime I feel like I'm struggling with a decision, I step back and ask myself, do I have 80% of what I need to make this decision? And if I do, I make the decision and then I live with the results. You do not need to feel certain about a decision. You just need to commit to the choice that you've already chosen to take. You keep wondering if you made the wrong choice. But the truth is, there's no way to know what would have happened if you picked the other path. I used to think there was a perfect path, a smooth path that's paved all the way through, and you 100% know where you're going. Life has taught me otherwise. 9.99 times out of 10, there is no perfect path. If you're waiting for something to be perfect, then you're never going to do anything. Understanding that, really feeling that, and realizing that your life is going to stay stagnant, or you're going to make a little bit of progress, but if you choose perfection, you're not going to have that kind of incremental growth that you're seeking in life, that you're wanting in life, that you see other people having in life, because that perfect path does not exist. If you make a decision and you start to spiral in your thoughts and you start to wonder, what if this happens? What if that happens? This thing that I just decided on, what if it doesn't work out? What if it crashes and burns? What if people make fun of me? What if people say this and people do that? Just living in the world of what ifs. Try to change that perspective from what if. So you've made a decision, instead of what if, change it with what now. You've made a decision, you've picked a choice, you've picked a lane. What now? What do you do right now? What do you do tomorrow? Not what if this happens, what if that happens. There is no evidence that this is going to happen. There is no evidence that this what if is not going to happen. But you do have evidence of what you do right now, what you do today. So I actually found myself, funny enough, today, there's a project that I'm working on at work, and there's some uncertainty there and a lot of emotions and feelings and fears. And all day I was just thinking about all these what if scenarios. What if this goes wrong? What if I can't do this? What if this person says this? What if? And then I caught myself later on in the day that, why am I wondering what if? Why am I creating all these visions and futures that don't exist? They literally do not exist. And I'm creating them in my mind, just going, what if, and it's creating more fear in me about this particular decision. And I chose to replace it with what now? This is where I am. I have this situation right now. What now? What do I do in the next 10 minutes? What do I do in the next hour, in the next 24 hours? Replacing what if with what now is going to really help you now start to focus in on just that decision today and the things you need to do in order to make progress. There's no perfect outcome. There is only the outcome that you choose to commit to. You're not missing out on a better future. You're just not present in the one you're building. This thought should actually rattle you or even scare you a little bit. I know it scared me, it rattled me, and it's something I thought about a lot intently today, actually. You're just not present in the future that you're building. Your mind is completely in another realm, thinking about things that are not even happening right now. You're living outside of the now, and instead of focusing on now and the things that you can do right now, you're too busy focusing on the what ifs. That hurts. And that's a wake-up call. And that's something you need to think about as well. Right now, time is ticking. So you need to be thinking about what now. What are you going to do now? Not what if. You don't need to know if the decision was perfect. You just need to give it a real chance to actually morph into what it should be. You're not just second guessing the decision. You're judging yourself for making it. That's not reflection. It's self-sabotage. I have made decisions in my life that I am not proud of. And instead of moving forward, I kept punishing myself for it. I'd replay it over and over and over again, and I would constantly shame myself for those decisions that I either made or the decisions that I didn't make in life. It's not a good place to be long term because you can get stuck in that loop and you can get to the point where you become very afraid to really make any decision because you think every decision is going to go just as bad as the decision that you perceive to be bad went. You have to find a way to realize that you made the best decision you possibly could have made with the information that you had at the time. And the key here is to understand and find a way to accept that that version of you made that decision with the information they had and the life and perspective that they had at the time. They didn't know what you know now. Who you are now is easy to criticize the person you were before because in hindsight, you now know all this stuff that's happened as a result of those decisions. So you think that the past you should have known all of those things when in reality they shouldn't have because they were not this current version of you. They didn't have those lived experiences. They didn't have some of those people in your life. They didn't have those lessons and that wisdom in your life. So you have to figure out a way to accept that. And it's taken me a long time to really start to wrap my mind around that. But if you want to continue to make better decisions in the future and be able to make and be happy with the decisions that you make and move forward with those, you also have to reconcile past decisions because they dictate your tolerance of the type of decisions that you make now. You don't move forward by judging yourself constantly. You move forward by learning, adjusting, and moving forward. And there is a quote by a Shaolin monk, Shi Hangyi, and one of my favorite quotes, he talks about people that are dealing with judgment and judging themselves and past mistakes. And he says that mistakes are just mistakes, right? And I'm paraphrasing here. But the thing is, in Buddhist philosophy, the first arrow will always hit. But do not let the second arrow hit. If you let the second arrow hit, that means you did not learn from the first one. You did not grow from the first one. So you need to reflect on that. And that's the mentality you need to take into your past decisions and understand that the second arrow will not hit because you've learned, you've grown, and now you're going to make better decisions in the future. Reflection should lead to growth and not guilt. Your decisions are predicated upon your mindset, how you approach the things that are happening now, and how you approach uncertainty and being comfortable with not knowing what's going to happen in the future and still making that decision anyways and choosing to take the next step forward, knowing that you can trust yourself to adjust, you can trust yourself to pivot, and you can trust yourself that you're going to make a better decision in the future if this one doesn't work out. Or an even better idea to think about is, what if, right? What if this decision that you're going to make right now, what happens if it turns out to be a great decision and you actually reap the benefits of that? That's one thing a lot of people don't think about, and I don't really do a good job of this, but I'm trying to do a good job, is to think about the positives. We talked earlier about what ifs and thinking about what nows instead of what ifs. But if you're going to think about what if, think about what if the outcome that you want actually happens. What if a positive future actually happens? What if you actually make the right choice and get that thing and ultimately get the life and the thing that you want? If that excites you, go ahead and move forward with that decision. If you're stuck replaying your decision, that's probably because you're stuck in a loop of overthinking. In my previous episode, I broke down exactly how I was able to break through that cycle and begin to take action in my life. So you can check out that episode right here.